They don't want somebody who's captured by corporations.
So you think that the alleged murder of a Saudi journalist on Turkish soil would be grounds for a major bilateral blow-up?
I know who I am, and, they're wrong.
The governor of the province where China is detaining an estimated 1 million Uyghur Muslims publicly defended the camps as vocational training centers. Speaking with state media, Shorat Zakir called inmates trainees, saying they aren't only taught to drop extremist beliefs, but they gain job training and language skills, and learn how colorful life can be. Former inmates say they were forced to denounce their religion in what they described as political indoctrination camps. 2 years after thousands protested against the Dakota Access Pipeline at Standing Rock, around 50 people are fighting the network's last link, a 160-mile stretch through Louisiana known as the Bayou Bridge Pipeline. Protesters, who've locked themselves to machinery and trees, say they've managed to block construction for over a month in some areas. But pipeline owners say they're 86% done and will finish this year. Ethiopia's new prime minister has appointed women to half the posts in his new cabinet, including Secretary of Defense, with the goal of fighting a stereotype that women can't lead. It's the latest reform Abiy Ahmed has pushed through since taking office in April, including the release of thousands of political prisoners and a peace deal he signed last month with Eritrea. Ecuador's London embassy has issued Julian Assange a set of house rules he needs to stick to in order to keep his asylum. It's a pretty typical chore list for an overstaying house guest. Assange has to keep his living area and bathroom tidy, refrain from interfering in the internal affairs of other countries, and remember to clean up after his cat. In an interview this evening with the Associated Press, President Trump said those blaming the Saudi government for the disappearance of Jamal Khashoggi are jumping to conclusions. Earlier in the day, he implied that he believes the Saudi crown prince's denial that he knew anything about what happened to Khashoggi, who disappeared after entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Trump promised that answers would be, quote, forthcoming shortly. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was in Saudi Arabia today trying to get those answers. Tomorrow, he's expected to head to Turkey, as the two countries navigate the latest crisis in a relationship that's been on shaky ground for years.
Turkey and Saudi Arabia are rivals. They compete for influence in the Middle East, and it's not uncommon for each to be critical of the other. Turkey has called out Saudi Arabia for driving the civil war in Yemen and for leading the blockade on Qatar last year. Saudi Arabia has called out Turkey for, among other things, supporting Hamas. So you'd think that the alleged murder of a Saudi journalist on Turkish soil would be grounds for a major bilateral blow-up. So far, it hasn't. On the Khashoggi affair, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has taken a comparatively measured tone up to now.
Temennim odur ki bir an önce orada bizler için bir kanaat oluşturacak sonuçlara ulaşmak.
There has been a steady slew of leaks and stories in Turkish media pushing Saudi Arabia into a corner, citing unnamed security officials saying they have evidence like audio recordings or even video shot inside the consulate, but nothing's been officially released. Exactly. Turkish analysts say it's all part of a carefully managed strategy to make sure that Turkey benefits as much as possible from the situation.
Turkey has been very clever about this. Turkey, obviously, like almost everybody else, including the United States, doesn't want to ruin its relations with Saudi Arabia entirely. The two countries, even though they are not in very good terms, are important trade partners.
Turkey's economy has been slumping this year. The currency plunged by about 40% since January before rallying slightly after the release of the American pastor, Andrew Brunson. But Saudi investment here is considerable. In 2017 alone, there was roughly $2 billion worth of investment by the Gulf bloc led by Saudi Arabia into Turkish banks, companies, and real estate. Keeping that money flowing is a big priority, so Erdogan is being careful not to do anything that would encourage the Saudis to pull out. But there are also political gains to be made. The Khashoggi affair is an opportunity for Erdogan to further mend his relationship with the West, standing for justice and the rule of law in contrast to perceptions of him among some in Europe and America as an autocratic strongman ruler. And there's a geopolitical dimension too. We've heard optimism from some here that the fallout from the Khashoggi affair could ultimately bring an end to Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's grip on policy decisions that have further driven tensions with Turkey. An opportunity from heaven, as one political insider told me, for Turkey to reassert itself economically and strengthen its hand in the region, if it's played correctly.
In Texas tonight, Democrat Beto O'Rourke will square off against Senator Ted Cruz and another debate in the Lone Star State's closely watched Senate race. Cruz has been enjoying public poll numbers that show him with a small but consistent lead. O'Rourke has been enjoying a fundraising haul that shattered all previous records, $38 million in a single quarter. Candidates across the country filed their third quarter fundraising totals last night, and Democrats pulled in huge numbers. More than 60 Democratic House candidates raised over $1 million, and 10 raked in over $3 million in just one quarter. According to an analysis by 538, Democratic candidates have raised almost 2/3 of all the money raised for House races. And how are candidates spending that money? For the most part, how they've always spent it. Advertising.
No PACs, just people. Thank you.
For example, in the same period O'Rourke raised that $38 million, his FEC filing says he spent $29 million. O'Rourke's campaign sent $9.7 million to Democratic consulting firm Screen Strategies Media. That paid for TV and radio ads. His campaign sent $7.1 million to consulting firm Middle Seat. That paid for digital ads. House candidate Randy Ironstash Bryce is raising a fortune in his efforts to replace retiring House Speaker Paul Ryan in Wisconsin's 1st Congressional District. He raised $1.1 million this quarter. He's also spending a lot on ads and spent at least $97,000 on flyers and other snail mail campaigning. More money means more ads.
I'm Randy Bryce, and I approve this message.
But just 2 years after Hillary Clinton's loss stunned prognosticators, the question now is whether money really matters in elections. Clinton dramatically outraised and outspent Trump, and she still lost. This year, it's small-dollar donors who are making their voice heard the loudest, as Democrats succeed in converting resist into reward. During the Kavanaugh hearings, for example, Democrats implored angry women to send donations to Democrats as a means of protest. In the past, small-dollar donations like these would have been an accurate measure of intensity, voter enthusiasm that drives turnout and wins races. But that might be changing too. After all, online donations make it easier than ever to give to a candidate you like. But if you don't live in that candidate's state, you still can't vote for him.
You're all probably familiar with the term judicial activism. I bet this crowd is.
Last night at the Heritage Foundation, Attorney General Jeff Sessions blasted what he called activist judges, accusing them of putting politics above the law.
In effect, activist advocates want judges who will do for them what they have been unable to achieve at the ballot box.
His speech was just the latest sign of the politicization of the U.S. judiciary. Something that was all too obvious during the fight over Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation.
We are here to decide whether or not to rubber stamp Donald Trump's choice of a pre-selected political ideologue nominated precisely because he believes a sitting president should be shielded from civil lawsuits, criminal investigation, and prosecution, no matter the facts.
This whole 2-week effort has been a calculated and orchestrated political hit.
But it isn't just the Supreme Court. Most of the work of the federal judiciary is done by district and circuit court judges, and their confirmation battles have been political for a long time. Take Edward M. Chen, a U.S. district judge in California. You may have heard of him because he's the judge who just ruled the Department of Homeland Security couldn't end temporary protected status, or TPS, for immigrants from Sudan, Haiti, El Salvador, and Nicaragua. In his ruling, he suggested Trump, quote, harbors an animus against non-white, non-European aliens, which influenced his decision to end the TPS designation. It was a sharp rebuke to one of Trump's signature policies. And it's exactly why, almost a decade ago, Republicans tried their best to keep Chen from ever getting his job. Obama nominated Chen to the seat in August 2009. He was a magistrate judge who'd worked for the ACLU and had almost 10 years of experience. Conservatives freaked out.
The revolving door of radicals coming into the Obama administration continues to spin.
And so did Republican senators.
Judge Chen believes judges should interpret the law according to their personal understandings and preferences. This is a classic definition of judicial activism.
It took Obama 2 years and 3 renominations to get Chen on the bench.
The nomination is confirmed.
And even then, it was over the opposition of almost all Republican senators.
What about Edward Chen? He had written more than 350 published opinions, and the minority didn't criticize one. But most in the minority voted against his nomination anyway.
Chen wasn't alone. Republicans regularly filibustered Obama's nominees. Democrats vowed to put a halt to this. So they got rid of the judicial filibuster for lower court nominees in 2013, meaning that it only took a majority vote to get a nominee through. That temporarily solved the problem. But now that the GOP controls the Senate, it's been able to use the new rules to push through as many judges as possible. 82 Trump lower court nominees have now been confirmed, more than in any of the 5 previous administrations. And as Sessions hinted in his speech, Trump plans to keep packing the lower courts with as many conservatives as possible, which leaves the Democrats with only one way to stop him: take back the Senate. Five months after ABC fired Roseanne Barr for a racist tweet, her show returns to air tonight as The Connors, without Roseanne.
There were tens of thousands of people outside waiting to come in. The Washington Post put a picture of an empty arena, and they put a caption, "Mr. President, not a very good crowd, is it?" I didn't even land for 4.5 hours later. Now, did they fire that reporter? No, right? And look what happened to Roseanne. Did they fire Roseanne? Yes.
Well, I was at my mom's house in Salt Lake, and, I was very happy, and, my show was #1 after 20 years to come back and be #1, and not just be #1, but 28 million people watched it. So I was in a happy place, and anyway, so I went to bed, and I woke up at 2:11 and tweeted that tweet, and then I went back to sleep. And when I woke up in the morning, it was all over the news, and I was like, uh-oh. And it was characterized as racist, which just made my stomach fall to my feet. And then the network called and said, what possible excuse can you have for something you've done which is unforgivable and some other word that I can't remember. And then I said, I'd be happy to go on all the ABC shows and explain it and apologize. But they said no, I wasn't allowed to do that. Not too long after that, my mom was watching TV and saw that it was canceled. And that was just the beginning. This was the Eleanor Roosevelt Freedom of Speech Award, ironically. That's the Emmy. And those are People's Choice Awards. We cleaned all my awards and grouped them for you. I want to get the Nobel Peace Prize, or a Tony. I don't keep in touch with anyone on the show. I've been removed from the process of my life's work. it's like the worst thing they could have possibly done to me was to fire me from my own show and let other people write my life story. I'm not going to watch it, and I'm not going to condemn it or say anything bad about it either. I'm just moving on from it. Because I've always been a go-getter, and now I'm I don't know what I am. Here's my mess, my big mess. You know, now that I have extra time, I really want to redo all my files and my pictures, you know, get them all in order. So that's what I've been working on. So I'm back to what I always did, which is try to get my pictures and my files together. I need a lot of organization. I'm bad at that. I've got a lot of time for real life stuff. Like just going for a walk with my mom and having an ice cream cone. Stuff like that. Waiting in lines. I've really been sleeping a lot, like probably 17 hours a day. Started smoking. Very bad move. There's a backstory to everybody who creates something. You know, the pain of living life and the things you may have gone through to, you know, create that joke or that situation or that family. And they knew that I had, you know, everybody knows that I have struggled with mental health issues. And I was struggling at that time as well. I was impaired and stupid and mistaken and wrong. And for that, I apologized. My whole life I've been under punches, not just my career. My life, yeah. I've been under punches forever. I've been called every name in the book for, you know, since the first time I stepped on stage and before that. And, you know, I don't let words hurt me. What other people say, I don't let it hurt me because that's about the person who's saying it, not about me. I'm not what they think I am. And I know that. I know who I am. And, you know, they're wrong.
Oh, man. Robot music.
Oh, come on.
This is getting really Freudian.
This love has no ceiling. I cannot deny.
That's a feel-good song.
Yeah, we're in New York, just jumped in a lift, and the guy's got a slamming system, and he takes a look at us on the curb, and he's like, I know what these guys are gonna like.
It's a guy, he's...
She? Is it a woman or?
I felt like it was some guy talking to some girl. I got, you know, I'm gonna make you feel good.
It was a female.
Oh, really? Oh,
It's a female, holy crap. So it's weird that it seems like the tables were turned a little bit.
It doesn't come across as if the singer is producing themselves. It feels like there's a lot of people
Like saying, yeah, do this, do that. A little formulaic.
I'm sure she...
It's all right. We know that she's a nice person.
She's
You
a
don't
really
need
nice
to-
person,
Yeah.
and she has different
Don't need to-
motives about what she wants to do.
Don't need to
and that's
justify.
cool.
I'm a black man who's come to terms with his anger. I love all of me. I love all of me.
That's pretty pure and original songwriting there. But I think probably the ultimate way to hear this person perform would be just them and an instrument. Would probably kill you.
That person loves everybody.
It's Yoko Ono.
That's what an 81-year-old woman sings about at this point. That's really great.
They don't want smoke with me. The diamonds is choking me. They pussy need potpourri. These bitches is 0-3. And they in the lower league, all in my ovaries. The fur on my shoulder mink. Tell me what hoe would think.
She's really good. I really like her voice.
I was really impressed that she threw the word ovary in there, and she rhymed with ovary, Now, if she can do like fallopian next time.
There's,
I mean, it was Nicki Minaj, right?
It was Cardi B.
Oh man, I'm so bad. That's so bad because those two like hate each other. Don't air that. They'll probably come after me next.